Everyone knows the number. $30 million. That's what Billy Joel's own manager supposedly stole from him. And that's the figure that's been repeated in every retelling of this story for 35 years. Joel sued for $90 million. The headlines screamed betrayal, and most people walked away believing the piano man eventually got his money back and rode off into the sunset. Here's what almost nobody tells you. Billy Joel never got that money back. Not most of it. Not even close. When the dust settled, he recovered somewhere around $8 million, and the man who actually drained his accounts, Frank Weber, paid him almost none of it. The real money came from somewhere else entirely. This isn't a story about a celebrity who got scammed and recovered. This is a story about how the people closest to you, the ones who hold your power of attorney and stand as godfather to your child, can quietly mortgage your life's work for $15 million without you ever signing a thing. And by the end of this, we'll show you why Frank Weber never spent a single day in a courtroom as a defendant in handcuffs, and why Billy Joel today says he's not even angry anymore. We're going to walk through this in 4 parts. First, how the trap was built, and why Joel handed his entire fortune to family. Second, the moment it all unraveled, which didn't happen in an audit, but on a road trip. Third, the actual mechanics of the fraud, including a horse, an insurance policy, and a scheme so dark it pulled in 2 of the most powerful men in the music industry. And fourth, the wreckage, the part that cost more than money. Let's get into it. To understand how Billy Joel lost everything, we have to go back to 1982. Joel had just come through a brutal divorce from his first wife, Elizabeth Weber. And in the wreckage of that marriage, he made a decision that seemed, at the time, completely reasonable. He kept her brother on as his manager. His name was Frank Weber. He had been orbiting Joel's business since the late 70s, and after the divorce, Joel handed him the keys to everything. Frank became his exclusive financial manager, his business manager, his creative manager. He got power of attorney. He got total control. And here is the part that makes this story land like a punch. Frank Weber was not just the ex-brother-in-law. He was the godfather to Joel's daughter, Alexa Ray Joel. This was family. This was the man you trust precisely because trusting him feels safe. And that's the thing about this kind of fraud. It never starts with a stranger. It starts with the person you'd never think to audit. Joel said it himself, years later. He didn't want to think about money. He wanted to be an artist. He didn't like thinking like a businessman, so he found someone he loved and trusted, and handed the whole thing over. And then he stopped looking. For nearly a decade, he stopped looking. Why would he? The hits kept coming. The albums went platinum. The stadiums sold out. From the stage, life looked perfect. And while Joel was selling out Madison Square Garden, Frank Weber was quietly building a financial maze underneath him, one that Joel wouldn't begin to understand until it was nearly too late. Now here's where most tellings of this story get lazy. They say Joel discovered the fraud, as if he sat down with an accountant and found a problem in a spreadsheet. That's not how it happened. The truth is stranger, and it's the detail that makes this whole thing feel real. It started on a road trip. Joel's then wife, the model Christy Brinkley, was driving with him up the coast of Maine. And as they moved through these little towns, locals kept saying things to them. They assumed Joel owned the local horses. They assumed he owned property nearby. And Brinkley started doing the math in her head. Her husband was flying everywhere on private jets, buying racehorses, and somehow everyone up here thought the couple owned half the coastline. Something didn't add up. She turned to Billy, said it plainly. Frank Weber is ripping you off. And here's the gut punch. Joel didn't want to hear it. He trusted Frank more than he trusted his own wife's instincts. Brinkley later said that hurt her deeply, watching the man she loved defend the person, draining him dry. She said, "I love you. I'm trying to protect you. I see people ripping you off." And Billy looked the other way. And here's a detail that shows you exactly how brazen this operation was. After Joel finally moved against Weber, Weber's management company turned around and sued Christy Brinkley. They sued her for $11 million, claiming she had wrongfully and maliciously interfered with the management contract, that she had poisoned Joel against Frank. Think about the nerve of that. The woman who spotted the fraud and tried to warn her husband got sued for $11 million for the crime of being right. Her defense was simple. She just did not want her husband's former brother-in-law managing her money. She wanted her own manager. That's it. It took time before he finally let his attorneys look at the books. And when accountants from Ernst & Young went into Frank Management in the summer of 1989, what they found was not a single error. Joel's lawyer later called it major incidents of fraud and dishonest dealings, virtually from the very beginning of the contract. 9 years, the whole arrangement, rotten from the start. Joel fired Weber in August of 1989, and 1 month later, he filed an 83-page complaint in New York that would crack open one of the ugliest financial betrayals in music history. We are halfway in now, and this is where it stops being a story about trust and starts being a story about mechanics. Because how exactly do you steal $30 million from one of the best-selling musicians alive? You do not do it by grabbing cash. You do it slowly, through structures, and this is the part Wall Street and the music industry would rather you not understand. So stay with us, because the next detail is the one nobody believes the first time they hear it. If this is the kind of breakdown you want more of, the deals nobody decodes for you, do us a favor and hit subscribe. We dig into one of these every week. Here's how the money actually disappeared. Weber didn't just skim. He allegedly used Joel's own money as a private piggy bank, moving it into ventures he controlled. There were oil and gas tax shelters. There were horse breeding farms. There were real estate partnerships and hotel developments. According to the lawsuit, Weber took roughly $2.5 million in loans from Joel's money after getting power of attorney and simply never paid it back. He lost more than $10 million of Joel's money on speculative investments, many of them tied to his own companies, even though Joel had wanted his money handled conservatively. And the cover was sophisticated. Every quarter, Joel received financial statements that looked clean and professional, prepared by the accounting firm Berman, Chaffee & Shane, that was supposed to be independent. According to the suit, those statements were a fiction. They overvalued assets that were in some cases worthless. They hid the interest-free loans flowing to Weber's own ventures. And one of the accounting partners had personally invested in a Weber horse breeding partnership, which is the opposite of independent. There was even alleged double billing run through a video production company on Joel's own music videos. Every layer was designed so that when Joel glanced at the paperwork, everything looked fine. That's the genius of this kind of fraud. It's not loud, it's quiet, papered, and signed off by people in suits. But the single most chilling detail is this. Weber allegedly mortgaged Billy Joel's song copyrights through EMI and CBS Publishing. $15 million borrowed against the rights to the songs Joel had written, and Joel says he knew nothing about it. Think about what that means. Piano Man, just the way you are. Scenes from an Italian restaurant. The actual ownership of those songs, quietly pledged as collateral on debt Joel never agreed to. He later said his songs were like his children, and that they had become orphans until he fought to reclaim them. That line only makes sense when you understand someone had mortgaged his kids out from under him. And then there's the part that sounds like fiction. The horses. This is the detail that almost nobody covers, and it's the darkest thread in the whole case. Weber had pulled other powerful people into his racehorse investments. Among them, according to sworn affidavits later filed in court, were Tommy Mottola, the head of Sony Music, and Allen Grubman, the most powerful lawyer in the entire music business. When Mottola reportedly wanted his investment money back and was told it was gone, the alleged solution floated was grim. You could kill a horse and collect the insurance. Now we have to be careful and fair here. This is an allegation, drawn from a memo describing an FBI interview and from court affidavits. Grubman's side dismissed the whole thing as comic gossip, but Joel's attorney fired back with a line that's hard to forget. He said, "It is hardly comic gossip." And here's the documented part. Grubman's law firm made a $250,000 unsecured loan to a stable to buy a horse named Wreckage. That horse died within months. The stable collected $890,000 in insurance, and the loan got paid back with interest. The horse, officially, died of natural causes. No one was ever charged. We'll let you sit with that one. That same lawyer, Allen Grubman, is where this story explodes outward from one bad manager into the whole machinery of the music industry. Because Joel didn't just sue Weber. He turned around and sued his own lawyer for $90 million too. Joel's claim was that Grubman had a conflict of interest so deep it poisoned everything. Grubman represented Joel, but he also represented Joel's record label and its executives. He was, in effect, working multiple sides of the same table. Joel alleged the firm knew about Weber's misconduct as early as 1982 and never warned him. And this wasn't some inexperienced legal team grasping at straws. Joel's lead attorney, Leonard Marks, had been down this road before. He had previously gone to war on behalf of Bruce Springsteen, the Bee Gees, and Eddie Murphy against their own managers. He had seen the playbook, and Marks said Weber's alleged conduct was the worst he had ever encountered, explaining that a manager who lets the power of standing next to a megastar go to his head can spiral into every kind of abuse. When the lawyer who had sued Springsteen's people calls your case the worst he's ever seen, that tells you something. And how did that lawsuit end? This is the detail that tells you how the music industry really works. The case was settled in 1993. Joel got $3 million, but the $3 million didn't come from Grubman. It came from Sony, the parent company, which hadn't even been named as a defendant. Sony quietly paid to protect its relationship with the most connected lawyer in the business. Joel's attorney put it bluntly. Why would Sony put up $3 million for Grubman when they weren't named in the suit? Because of the connections. That's the part Wall Street doesn't want you to see. The money moves to protect the people who hold the power, not the artist who got robbed. So let's add it up, because this is where the myth finally breaks. Joel sued Weber for $90 million. He won a partial judgment of $2 million in early 1990. Then Weber declared bankruptcy, which is a fancy way of saying the well was dry and the $90 million was never coming. Weber's own $30 million countersuit got tossed out. And in the end, the roughly $8 million Joel recovered came not from Frank Weber, but from settlements with the accountants who had enabled the fraud, and from that Sony payment. The man at the center of it all, the godfather, the ex-brother-in-law, paid back almost nothing. He just went bankrupt and walked away. We're in the final stretch now, and this is the part that costs more than money. Because a fraud like this doesn't just empty a bank account. It detonates inside the life around it. When Joel realized how broke he actually was, he understood there was only one way out. He had to go back to work. He once admitted that people in the music business kept asking him, "You just had all these hit records. Where's all your money?" And he didn't have an answer. He owed the IRS $5 million he didn't have, so he did the only thing he could. He wrote more songs. He recorded more albums, including his 1993 River of Dreams album. where songs like The Great Wall of China directly addressed the betrayal he'd experienced. He went back out on the road, not because he wanted to, but because he had to claw back a fortune that had vanished. And the people who paid alongside him were his band. In the reckoning that followed, longtime members got cut loose. His bassist, Doug Stegmeyer, who'd been with Joel since the mid-70s and was considered the backbone of the band, was forced out. In 1995, Stegmeyer died by suicide. We have to be careful here. We are not saying the fraud caused his death, but his bandmate, drummer Liberty DeVito, later said he could understand why Doug ended his life, that it's a brutal thing to watch someone else play your parts in a band you helped build. The financial earthquake at the center of Billy Joel's world sent cracks out in every direction. And here's the ending nobody expects. The villain of this story was never criminally charged. No indictment, no prison. Frank Weber declared bankruptcy and faded out of the headlines. And decades later, when an HBO documentary revisited the whole saga, Frank Weber actually showed up. He sat for the cameras. He was calm, even nostalgic. He joked about which Billy Joel songs were his favorites. The man who allegedly drained tens of millions sat there, at peace. And Billy Joel? Joel says he ran into Weber years later in the Hamptons, and that he is not bitter anymore. He called the whole thing more of an emotional betrayal than a financial one, because the money he could earn back. The trust he could not. He summed up the lesson in one unforgettable line. He said he had hooked up with the Borgias, that Renaissance family infamous for their betrayals and betrayals within betrayals. What a family to pick. So here's what this story really teaches, and it's the thing every one of us should take seriously, whether we are worth $400 million or $400. The most dangerous person to your money is almost never a stranger. It's the one you'd never audit. It's the person whose name is on your child's baptism certificate, the one holding your power of attorney precisely because checking up on them feels like an insult. Billy Joel handed the keys to family and stopped looking for 9 years. By the time someone he loved warned him on a road trip in Maine, the songs were already mortgaged, the money was already gone, and the only person who would pay it back was himself. One more tour at a time. If this opened your eyes the way it should, hit that subscribe button, because we decode one of these hidden money stories every single week, the ones the headlines get wrong. Tell us in the comments. If your wife had said the words Christy Brinkley said, would you have listened, or would you have defended the person draining you dry? We read every one. We'll see you in the next investigation.